Hi everyone, today I want to talk a little bit about cortisol. And the reason I want to talk about cortisol is that it's one of those hormones that gets a really bad reputation, and everyone is pretty much stressed and we're just thinking that we have too much cortisol, and cortisol is getting the blame for a lot of things, including making us fat. So I will cover what it is, why we have it, and what it does in our bodies actually, and why it could make us fat and what we can do about it. Because ultimately, all of us want to balance our hormones basically and feel as good as possible. And clearly, we don't want to have too much cortisol that will prevent us from sleeping or from losing weight, etc. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But before I start, I would really appreciate if you could hit the subscribe button down there and just give the video a thumbs up, because all of it helps. And also, if you have any friends that you think might benefit from this video, whether they are having trouble sleeping or trouble losing weight, or maybe they feel very stressed, just send them the link, have them watch the video. I'm sure it will be very helpful for them as well. So let's start with having a look at what it actually is. So most of you probably know cortisol as a stress hormone, and that is correct. It is a stress hormone that is released as soon as you're feeling stressed. So it's the fight or flight response hormone, if you like. And it's released every single time you're feeling stressed. So for some of you, that might be every single day and multiple times per day, or just ongoing throughout the day. For others, you might not feel stressed that often, but every single time can still add up. So just start noticing whenever you are feeling stressed. It could just be that you're getting really annoyed at something. That will increase the stress hormone. And I just had that right before I started this recording. I was starting it twice, and one of my dogs just kept digging away at her bed, so I just threw her out the door. And I just felt my patience, and I just lost it, and I just started shouting at the dog to get out, because I just want to make this recording and not start it over and over again. So this is the third time I'm pressing the play button because she just wouldn't stop. So that has probably raised my cortisol levels a bit, and my adrenaline, etc. So now I'm going to feel stressed for a while. So what I should be doing is what I'm going to tell you to do by the end of this video. But before that, I'm actually going to tell you about it. So what it does is that it's actually increasing your pulse, your blood pressure, your heart rate. And it does all of this to supply your muscles with blood as quickly as possible, because your blood will contain fresh oxygen, it will have all the nutrients, it will have glucose in it, and I probably just didn't say that, but it will help your liver release a lot of glucose from the liver into the blood to supply your muscles with the energy that it needs when it either needs to run away from a tiger or fight a tiger, or whatever it is that you are experiencing that could be fatal or really dangerous for you. So cortisol is there to help you taking care of a life-threatening situation. Nowadays we don't have too many of those situations going on, but even things like, just as I just told you, I'm getting annoyed at my dog, that will be a perceived stress by my body, and it will have the same response. It will not be super high maybe, but it will still be there. And if I have a lot of those episodes throughout the day, every little actually adds up. So just start paying attention to what's going on in your life. And what it does is that it just helps you. So naturally, if we are not having a lot of stressors, we still have cortisol in our blood. And optimum levels of cortisol is actually anti-inflammatory, and it helps to stabilize both your blood sugar and your insulin. And most people don't even know this, but it has a function, and it's not a bad function. It's there to help you. So we actually need cortisol, and naturally we would have different levels of cortisol at different times of the day. It's one of those circadian hormones that will be released at different concentrations at different times of the day. Ideally, it will be high in the morning and low at night. This will fluctuate a little bit, and it will fluctuate a little bit depending on what your life situation is right now. Are you very stressed or not? That could throw that off a little bit, and it will fluctuate between people as well. So the reason that we have it in the morning is that it will help you wake up. So it does all of this that I just told you about. You will have a little bit more glucose, etc. And all of that will help you wake up feeling refreshed, full of energy, and ready to tackle the day. And with the same logic, when it's low in the evening, it's low because it wants you to wind down and go to bed and have a good night's sleep. When you are very tired in the morning, but you can't sleep at night because you're feeling tired and wired and you're just like, panic. That's when you have high cortisol levels in the evening, but very low cortisol levels in the morning. So hard to wake up, hard to fall asleep, but you're feeling exhausted. Something's up with your cortisol for sure. So cortisol normally starts rising slowly around 2 a.m., might be peaking around 4 a.m., something like that. And it's peaking at that time, so it gives your body enough time to release that glucose and just getting you ready for waking up. So if you're one of those people that likes to go to bed after midnight, like me, naturally, might not be the best idea, because if your cortisol starts rising at 2, let's say it starts rising at 2, maybe if you're a night owl, maybe that is delayed a little bit, but it's not usually that it starts rising at 5 or 6. It usually starts much earlier than that for most people. Once it starts going up, it is much harder for you to get quality sleep. And when I say quality sleep, I'm talking about the deep sleep that you're getting, the most restorative sleep. You are much more likely to get this earlier in the evening. So if you go to bed, you fall asleep at 10 or 9, you're much more likely to get your deep sleep at that time rather than 4 in the morning. Now, I have been tracking my sleep for a while now. This is true for me as well, but sometimes I do have some deep sleep early in the morning, and that's fine. But something that is happening is that if you're very stressed and you can't sleep, even if you manage to fall asleep, the quality of your sleep might not be as good because you are having this stress response which will prevent you from falling that deep into your sleep. Okay? So when we have constantly elevated cortisol levels, you could develop chronically high blood pressure, for example. You could increase your risk of diabetes type 2. You could get lower immunity. You might get depressed and start gaining weight, or possibly if you're already overweight but you're not gaining much more weight, you could just become resistant to losing that weight. All of those could be in part caused by cortisol, or chronically elevated cortisol levels, I should say. So what does it make us fat then? Because I just told you that it releases glucose from your liver. So basically it's emptying the store. So that is the opposite of storing it, the way insulin is doing it. So it is a little bit of a paradox, but then it's not. Because short term, cortisol is a catabolic hormone, meaning that it releases both sugar and fat from your liver, so that you have that energy available for when you need to deal with the stressful situation. So if someone who's normally quite balanced, not overly stressed, maybe loses someone dies, and they feel really, really stressed for, like, say, chronically stressed for a couple of months, they're probably going to experience some sleep problems. They're probably going to feel tired and a lot of the time wired, exhausted, all those sort of things, and they might even lose a lot of weight. But that is also because when you're releasing cortisol, you're also releasing adrenaline. And usually that's accompanied by something called corticotropin releasing hormone, or CRH, as well. And both CRH and adrenaline are very short acting. So adrenaline will suppress your appetite and makes you just not want to eat, because we don't want to stop and eat when we are in a situation where we're about to maybe die, where we need to fight or flight. But they're short acting, so they will be broken down and they will kind of disappear much quicker than the cortisol. So cortisol is more long acting than adrenaline and CRH. And having said that, it also has another effect. It will help replenishing your glucose and fat store when the stress is gone. So it will actually help with storing those nutrients that are in your blood, if there are any, when the stress is gone. So normally, if you were chased by a tiger, you would release all this energy, glucose, some fat, and just ready to run, and you would consume all of these nutrients in your blood. Nowadays, you're sitting in a traffic jam, you're not moving at all, getting more and more annoyed because someone is cutting you off and blocking you, and you're just not getting anywhere, and you're just hungry, you want to go home, relax after a hard day at work, and you're feeling really stressed. The adrenaline will go away, the cortisol is still there, and you have a lot of released fats and glucose in your blood. You probably have a higher blood glucose than what is healthy, and you probably have increased levels of triglycerides at this time. So you will start storing this again. But while you're storing that, you're also feeling really sorry for yourself. So you're having pizza and ice cream, and you're just mashing it in. And now all of a sudden you are going to have your body is going to be up for a real challenge to store all of this energy that you are actually supplying it with, because you haven't used any, and you're not using anything. You have lots of cortisol, which will help your insulin to store this, and voila, what's going to happen? You're going to increase your fat storage, because your liver can only take so much glucose. There's a limit how much glucose you can store, depending on how large your liver is. So there you have it. That's how you actually gain weight on cortisol. The short and maybe not so scientific version of it, but that is how it works. So what can you do about it? Basically you need to look at moderating your stress. That is absolute most effective way of doing it. So first of all, you can have a look at what are those stressors. There's nothing as important as that. If you don't know what is stressing you, it's going to be hard to do something about it. So if I know that my dog is usually stressing me out by trying to make her bed for 10 minutes when I'm trying to record something, despite me turning her off, then maybe I should kick the dog out before starting the recording. That's a good way for me to reduce that stress. If I'm getting stressed in traffic, maybe I need to find a way to just let that go and chillax about it. Because there is nothing I can do about the traffic. I need to look into what's going on the inside in my head, because it's my head that is creating all of this stress. So when you can identify all your stresses, then you can start working on them. Exercise is an excellent way of getting rid of excess energy and increasing your insulin sensitivity, but exercise can also be a stressor on your body. So if you are very stressed and then you go in and you do an hour of aerobic training every day, something that takes a long time and might be moderate to high intensity sort of thing, you're going to add a lot of stress to your body, and that might not be a very good thing because it's just adding stress on top of stress. So if you're going to do that, I suggest that you keep it short, you keep it intense, so that you can just burn off whatever you have there and just use that energy, because you're stressed. Your body is designed to do it in a very explosive, short-term way. You're not meant to be running from this tiger for an hour, because the tiger is going to outrun you every time. You're meant to be sprinting to that tree, climb up really, really fast, and hope that the tiger can't climb the tree. I think tigers can sort of climb, but you get the point. So keep it short and very high intensity. That's the best way of doing it. And you also want to eat a low carb or ketogenic diet. And the reason that I say that is because I just told you that cortisol will release glucose into your blood. If you're stress eating and you're eating a lot of carbs, you will just add even more on top of that and increase your risk of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. If you're keeping it low carb, you're not going to add a lot of extra carbs to your blood glucose, and that you won't need as much insulin to take care of that, etc. So you're not going to make as much damage by doing that. That is the best way for you to eat to keep your keep your insulin balance, etc., to prevent the cortisol damage, if you like, if we can call that cortisol damage, because it's indirect. You want to get good quality sleep and enough of it, because when you're sleeping, you're restoring everything. And when you don't, your cortisol levels will just keep rising slowly. When you sleep, you actually give your body a chance to reduce your baseline cortisol level. So when you don't get enough sleep, or quality sleep I should say, because it's not just so much about the amount of sleep, it's also about the quality of the sleep you get, you will become more insulin resistant and your hunger will go up, and that is going to make everything so much harder for you to deal with. You also need to find a way of relaxing, and this is something many people just forget about. So whatever works for you. I'm not going to say that you have to do yoga or meditation or anything, but something that seems to be working, because it can calm your mind, but even more importantly, it calms your nervous system, is deep breathing. So you can do that while listening to some music, you can do that while doing yoga or meditation, but you can just do the deep breathing on your own. So just like take a deep breath and then breathe out again. It can be as simple as that. There are many different techniques. There are box breathing, where you breathe in for 3 seconds or 5 seconds, and then you hold your breath for the same amount of time, then you breathe out for the same amount of time, then you hold your breath for the same amount of time, etc. You can breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. There are all sorts of techniques that you can try. Just find something that works for you. But read a book. That might work for some people, because we're taking our mind off it. And when we can get into a state of relaxation, we're telling our bodies that the danger is gone, and we will stop producing a lot of cortisol, because we can now relax. Okay, so we manage to relax our nervous system, and we will indirectly tell our bodies that we are safe. And this is probably the fastest and most effective way of lowering your stress as quickly as possible, I would say. You can also let your body know that the crisis is over by laughing or crying. Many people do this naturally. I used to do this as a teenager. I never cried, ever, apart from at times where I had been really, really angry. When that anger stopped, I just started crying, and I found that so embarrassing. So that is something that actually comes naturally to us, but we usually kind of train that away I still have a tendency to maybe want to do that if there's something really, really major, but most of the time I don't have that anymore. So it's a really good way for your body to release that tension by just crying or laughing. I actually have an ex-boyfriend who, if someone hit him, he would start laughing. He was very tall and very big, so he was like no big deal, but clearly he was getting stressed because he couldn't explain why he was laughing. So it's just a way that we naturally would deal with it, but it's a way that is actually working to get rid of the stress. Another thing is physical contact. We are pack animals, we are seeking physical contact. That's what will make us relax. And whether that be just a long type of hug, make sure that it's longer than, let's say, it should be at least 10 seconds, maybe 8, so that you get this sense of security, a little bit of oxytocin maybe, and just, hug someone as long as you like and that it feels comfortable. But it can also, if it's with a loved one, you can be kissing or having sex or whatever. They're all great ways of connecting with people. But physical contact in general is usually much better than just talking when we're talking about reducing the stress. They're all really good ways of reducing the stress. And another thing that you can do is not so much about reducing it, but preventing it, is just avoid all types of stimulants like caffeine, for one, for example, but also cigarettes and alcohol, because all of them actually help raising your baseline cortisol levels. So if you're getting stressed on top of that, you're just going to get even more of the evil. And don't go on a low-calorie diet, ever. That is releasing a lot of cortisol. If you want to lose weight and you want to do it by eating less, then you should be doing a fast of some kind, whether that is a prolonged fast or intermittent fasting. That's how you do it. You do not do it with low-calorie diets, because that is so stressful on your body. Your body has to adjust. Your body thinks that there is a shortage of food, and that is a warning signal. So just don't do it. That was pretty much all I had for you today. I'm just going to recap that quickly. So just learn what your stressors are and find a way of dealing with them so that you don't get so stressed when you're exposed to them. Exercise, high intensity, short period of time. Eat a low carb or ketogenic diet of some kind. Get quality sleep, preferably long, but more about quality. Find a way of relaxing, deep breathing, for example, and you can you can laugh or cry if you like. Physical contact, and last of all, avoid the stimulants if you're feeling stressed, to save your adrenals and reduce your baseline cortisol levels. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Please let me know in the comments if you have dealt with this and actually fixed some adrenal issue, maybe what you've been going through. And also, I say it every now and then, but I have a list of topics that I want to go through. But if you do have anything that you want me to talk about specifically, just mention it in the comments and I will put it on my list, and hopefully I will make a video about it. So thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you later. Bye.